We are in Parashat Mikeitz. Parashat Mikeitz usually falls on Hanukkah. Hanukkah, a little bit before Hanukkah, after Hanukkah, but usually it's around the time of Hanukkah. And because the parasha always falls around the time of Hanukkah, then not many people actually teach about it, because if a certain shul or rabbi, they have a weekly class, so they'll give the class about Hanukkah and not about the parasha. And I found that there's not a lot of teachings about this specific parasha, which we mentioned. אם את רוצה להקליט אפשר לשים פה, זה נשמע יותר טוב. We mentioned last week that we have now 4 parashot that are kind of connected to each other, because it's the same story. We start with Veshev, then Mikeitz, and Vayichi, and Vayigash. It's Vayigash and then Vayichi, but these 4 parashot are the same theme. The Yosef being sold, going down to Mitzrayim, being in Mitzrayim, becoming king, the brothers come, and then Yaakov comes, and of course comes a very big question. That's what we want to talk about today, is the attitude that Yosef is showing towards the brothers. And the sad reality is that each and every one of us, at least once in our lifetime, somebody did something bad to us. The sad reality is probably more like 50 of them a week. But we all experience a situation that somebody did something bad to me. And I feel that I want to either revenge or get very upset, or sometimes I'll get very disappointed, or sometimes I want to totally ignore it, or get very angry. There's different types of reactions. So, what causes Yosef to react how he reacts to the brothers? You would think that he has all the right to be very, very upset at the brothers. And you would expect Yosef to react probably with a lot of anger. I mean, you would think, let's put ourselves in the shoes of Yosef, and with our hand on our heart, not around a group of people and trying to pretend. Put it's just an expression, maybe I'm not even saying it right, but put your hand on your heart and say, really, if somebody would do to me something like what the brothers did to Yosef, and then I become king? Oh, payback time. This is our dream. Oh, when somebody does something bad to me, I can't wait when I'm going to have the upper hand. That's usually what's the case. So how can Yosef, no wonder why he got the title Hatzadik, how can he, where is he even bringing the fact, where is he bringing the idea of how he reacted to them? Now, it's a little bit confusing, because in the beginning, he does react in a very harsh way. Like it looks like revenge. If you would read the Torah for the first time in your life, it seems that in the beginning he is going to revenge. But later on it changes. It's divided. And in this parasha, in Mikeitz, he's very harsh. And it looks like that's it, payback time. I'm going to show you now for all the suffering you did to me. But then the following parashot, it's completely different. In Vayigash and Vayichi, it's suddenly he's nice, he's giving them whatever they want, spoiling them with presents. So, since, unfortunately, and it seems like you all agree with me, since many people have did bad things to me, or did something wrong, and I don't always know how to react. And unfortunately, we deal with that on a very, very daily basis. That something happens and I don't know how to react. So then, of course, I go and ask my wife, my friends, my boss, my rabbi, whatever. He did this and that. What should I do? And then, of course, how do we start the conversation? I don't want to say lashon hara, but and we try to get some advice. What should I do? Should I shut up? Should I react? Should I do this? So we want to learn from the behavior of Yosef how I should apply it into my life. And unfortunately, I deal with many situations that I don't know how to react. Now obviously the easiest advice is to say, first think, don't react. So first think, digest it a little bit before you before the reaction is coming in a very impulsive way. But after that, after I digested the situation, now how do I react? So first we have to kind of understand, not understand, but see a little bit the history, what happened. So last week we're learning how, in the last week's Parashat Vayeshev, we learned how Yosef was the favorite of Yaakov, and he was loved, and Yaakov bought him a special garment, a robe, and he made him, his right hand, Ben Zikunav. Ben Zikunav doesn't necessarily mean the last one, rather the one who served him. Yosef and Yaakov were very, very attached to each other. And everything seemed good. Then the brothers decide to get rid of him for whatever reason. We talked about it last week, there's no point to repeat. And they kidnap him. And they throw him in a pit. And their plan was to kill him. And at some point Yehuda says, listen, let's not kill him. We don't need the blood on our hands. Let's just get rid of him. And they sell him. They sell him to a convoy of Ishmaelim. And they take him down to Mitzrayim. And before we know it, one thing leads to another. And he becomes a slave. And then he gets prosecuted, gets thrown into jail. And this week's parasha, suddenly, whoop, his luck changes. It wasn't so suddenly, it took 12 years. 12 years just in the jail. What about the years before that? So we're looking here at about 17 years that Yosef was going through this process, and finally, Baruch Hashem, after a long time of waiting, he becomes the second to the king. Suddenly his entire life changes. And from being from the bottom of the bottom, he goes to the top. Now he's the ruler of the world, because Egypt was at the time the most powerful country in the world. And of course we know the story. The brothers, there's a famine in Canaan. They go down to Canaan to get food, and they were already starting to cook some regret inside of them. 17 years passed. At the time that they actually came into Mitzrayim was already 22 years that have passed. And they started feeling a little bit like, maybe, this whole thing with Yosef. So since they went to Mitzrayim, they got permission from their father to go to Mitzrayim, from Yaakov. So they said, let's look for him. Maybe we'll find him. So the Torah says that they came into the city, each one from a different gate. And in the beginning, it says, Rashi says that they went through different gates because they're all strong and beautiful, and they didn't want to attract too much attention, neged ayin hara, not to have evil eye on them. Which of course right away Yosef uses that against them and tells them, you're spies. Each one of you came from a different gate. Why would you do that unless you really want to see how to conquer this place? But really we know that deep down inside they wanted to look for Yosef. They're like, maybe we can find him. So in the history of the events, Yosef starts in a very good place, and then he goes down, and after a very long period, life turns for him, and he's up again, and now he's out. And then comes payback day. And this is the dream of each and every one of us. I'm sure, again, with your hand on your heart, how many people we would wish to revenge when my situation changes. And this is natural. It's totally natural that somebody does something against me, and I wish, I'm like, I can't wait for one day that tables will turn and they will need me, and I'm gonna show them. And this is what happens. Hashem delivers the brothers straight into Yosef's hands, and he has now the ability to start the revenge. Now, like I told you, the reaction of Yosef is very confusing, because in the beginning he's very harsh with them. Right away he attacks them, tells them, you're spies. You came to spy this land, and I'm going to put you in jail. And he does put them in jail. And of course, later on, you know the whole story. He tells them, how many brothers are you? They tell them we're 11, and he tells them, go bring me the 11th one. I want to see him. And it starts becoming the chain of events and big problems. Now, like I said, 22 years have passed during this whole thing. The brothers don't recognize him. He was a young kid. I mean, it also begs an argument. Well, you don't recognize your brother? So what if 22 years passed? So what if he was 17? Same face. How can you not recognize him? Okay, so he had a beard. So whatever. There's always in the Torah the place for a question. Of course, when we're looking at it in a more of a spiritual way, he was in such a high spiritual level that they couldn't recognize him in such a level. Because they were also in a high level, and they couldn't recognize, wow, look, he's in a very, very high place. Could very much be that physically the face maybe changed a little bit. Maybe he was wearing, in Egypt they were wearing all sorts of jewelry. Maybe it made him look a little bit different. Nevertheless, they don't recognize him, and right away he attacks them, and he holds them as spies. And then of course comes the whole story. He sends them up to Canaan to bring Binyamin. They come down with Binyamin. Suddenly everything is like pretending everything is good. Then he sends them off. And the whole story, I'm not getting into all the details, it's less important right now. You can read the parasha. And they hide the goblets in Binyamin's bag. And of course, they send messengers to hunt them down. The goblet of the king is stolen. They look through the bags, and what do you know? They find it in the bag of Binyamin. They arrest him, they take him down, and they throw him into the jail. Of course, this we're going to learn next week, when Yehuda comes to Yosef, and he tells him, listen, take me instead. And Yosef says, no, I'm taking him, he's the thief. And Yehuda is arguing with him, I'm stronger, I'm much more powerful, I'm more talented, and when all this is not working, then Yehuda gets a little bit upset, and he bangs on the ground, and it says that when he banged on the ground, the whole country was shaking. And he told him, if you're not going to do it in a nice, it's going to be war. And the same way the two of us destroyed Shechem, then 10 of us will destroy Mitzrayim. That's where Yosef was like, okay, I got the point. But we see that the behavior of Yosef is a little bit confusing, because he's starting with revenge. And he does it in a very harsh way. Scares them and puts them in jail. And but then next week we'll see how the attitude completely changes. Now comes even a greater wonder. Next parasha after that, in the parasha Vayechi, when Yaakov dies. Right after Yaakov dies, the Shvatim, the tribes, are very afraid, because they were like, okay, up until now, Yaakov, our father, was alive, and Yosef was going easy on us. Now, father has died. Now he's gonna pull his revenge. Next to his father, he would never do that. Like Esau said, wait till our parents die, and I'm going to come and hunt you down. So they were afraid too. They were afraid that Yaakov will die, and now Yosef is going to say, okay, now our dad is out of the picture, now I'm going to show you. They came with all these theories, and they came and lied to him. And they told him, that our father said before he died that you should not be mean to us, and that you should forgive us, and wasn't such a thing. There was never such a thing. But what's even more amazing is that after Yaakov dies, Yosef is even better with them. He's even nicer with them. He sets them up with places to live. He sustains them financially. He tells them, just do whatever you want to do. I'll sustain you. He becomes even nicer, and he literally takes care of them from all the details they need. And they're afraid he's actually going to revenge. Now, first comes a big question. Why in the beginning he was pretending to revenge, and then it changed? Besides, later on we'll ask some other questions. But right now, I want to understand, why is he starting like that? Because obviously in the parasha next week, Parashat Vayigash, we see the real Yosef. when he forgives them, when he tells them, I'm your brother, is my father still alive? He gives them a lot of presents and totally changes. You see, okay, oh, that's the real Yosef. So why the show? Why he did the show, this parasha, there's the whole show. If you're planning on being nice with them, just be nice. Well, you have to pretend. Well, you changed your mind. You saw them and it caused you to change your mind. Why Dafka in the parasha of Mikeitz, he's mean with them. So the Ramban has a very interesting interpretation and explanation, and he says, when we read the verse in the Torah, some verses are called Mishpat Satum. That it's a verse, Mishpat is a verse, and Satum is not closed, necessarily closed, rather it's Satum means unclear. I don't understand. The beginning of the verse says one thing, the beginning of the verse it says, and he remembered the dreams. If you remember, read in the parasha, he saw them and he remembered the dreams. And the end of the verse, it says, you're spies. That was not in the dream. Doesn't make sense. In the dream, there was the fat cows and the skinny cows, and the, how do you call it? Sheaves, and the shibolim, you know, the wheat. So, how? Stalks?
Stalks of the one.
Yeah. The bundles, yeah. So it doesn't say anywhere in the dreams that they're going to be spies or that he has to throw them into jail. So why is the verse saying us? And he remembered the dreams, and then he told him they're spies. So of course there was also the other dream when the stars and the sun and the moon. So that verse doesn't make much sense. What's the connection between specifically the dreams and the fact that he thought or said that they're spies, and that he wanted to, I don't know the word in English, in Hebrew it's called Nakia. He was like playing with them. He was, excuse me?
Making a point?
Not making a point. He was teasing them. He knew who they are. He knew they're not spies. He was making a show. And he was like pretending you're spies, I'm going to put you in jail. He's being fake instead of staying straightforward. Of course, but the word in Hebrew that the Torah uses, litnaker. Litnaker, the way to explain it, where the word comes from, beak is called makor. And you know there's this type of bird, a woodpecker, then it goes with the beak like this. This is litnaker. Same, because the beak is like sharp and it's poking. He was harassing them, nudging, it was poking them. Just either tell them, I'm Yosef and I'm very upset or you go to jail. Here's my opportunity. Or don't. So just why are you pretending here? So yeah, he had an agenda. Of course, he had an agenda. Now, we know, and this is explained, we're still holding by what the Ramban is explaining, that he did want to hug them in the first meeting. He saw them, he got very emotional, very happy. He wanted to come right away and hug them and tell them, I'm Yosef, everything's good. But he stopped himself. And the reason why he stopped himself, because he remembered the dreams. And he says, wait a minute, something's not working out here with the dreams. Because in the dreams, it's talking about, how did we say it again? The sheaves? How do you write it?
S-I-G-A-E-S.
Sheaves, okay. So, he remembers the dream, and he says, wait a minute. In the dream, there was only 10 sheaves. And we're missing one here. Because only 10 of them came down here. And there was 11 sheaves. And also the 11 stars. And before the sun and the moon. And he says, wait a minute, but there are only 10 here. So I'm missing Binyamin. So I can't just right away tell them that I'm Yosef. It doesn't fit well with the dream. So I have to make them bring Binyamin here. In order for the dream to be perfect. So that stops him. And he says, okay, now Binyamin has to come here. I'm going to have to make it in some type of a way that they bring me Binyamin. Then they'll be all there. 11 of them, then it fits well with my dream, then we can continue. So that's what the Ramban explains to us. But there's another interpretation by a commentary called the Kli Yakar, and he explains that there's no doubt that Yosef wanted to hug them. There was no question here. He really wanted to, he was excited, he was happy, he knew that that's going to cause now him to meet his father. But what stopped him? What stopped him was the sin of the selling. Because they sinned, it was a sin. When they sold him, not the throwing into the pit, rather specifically the selling. And that stopped him because he said they need to do tshuva. If I'm not going to make them do tshuva in this world, they're going to suffer in the world above. And Bemet, if you remember last week we spoke about it, that Yosef actually cared about the brothers. The reason why he was telling the father about them is because he cared about them. He didn't want them to fail. The reason why he told them about the dreams is because he cared and he wanted them to overrule the dream and say, no, it's nonsense. Same thing here. He cared about them. He says, if they're not going to do tshuva, they're going to eat it in the world above. They're going to go into the world above and they're going to be judged for that. So he says, I don't want them to be punished. I'm going to make them do tshuva. How am I going to make them do tshuva? I'm going to punish them, so to say, with the same idea what they did to me. And that will maybe trigger and they'll be like, oh my gosh. And that's exactly what happened. He put them to jail by saying you are spies. And in jail, what does it say? It says clearly in the Torah that they're saying our selling of Yosef is hunting us now. Or not hunting, is like haunting us. Sorry. So that's what when they were sitting in jail, they were saying, okay, our sin is haunting us. So he got his point across, and he was like, okay, I need to do tshuva. How am I going to make them do tshuva? If I just tell them I'm Yosef, they're going to do tshuva? No. I'm going to turn it around in a way that I will cause them to do tshuva. And how did he do that? By throwing them in jail. Now he knew that their sin is so severe that it's going to have consequences. And we see that 1500 years later, after this story, 10 rabbis had to be killed because to rectify that act is the 10 martyrs, the 10 Harugei Malchut, like Rabbi Akiva that had to die in sanctifying Hashem's name. There are 10 Harugei Malchut corresponding to the 10 brothers. And he knew that later on it's going to have to come to some type of a rectification. Someone is going to have to pay for that. And he said they have to do tshuva.
So they made tshuva because he
of course he made tshuva. Yeah, even when a person does tshuva, has to be tikkun. Even in our life, let's say I did a sin, and then I do tshuva, has to be a tikkun. I mean, look at a very clear halacha is that if a person desecrates Shabbat by mistake, I didn't mean to, I leaned on the wall and I turned the light off. I still have to bring a korban. I still have to take a sacrifice to Bet HaMikdash.
What does the tshuva accomplish?
The tshuva will accomplish the fact that you're not going to get punished for that, and definitely not going to continue doing more sins, but there is still a blemish. And still has to be a rectification. And of course depends on the sin. We're talking about a severe sin right now, not that you did something small. If you did something small, then the tshuva itself is fine, but we still need a tikkun. That's why we had the korbanot. Because the korban was like to appease the situation. Okay, you were upset at me, I said sorry, but let me get a box of chocolates here to make it a little bit more sweeter. In this specific case, even though they did tshuva, there was still a blemish. This is off the subject, but important to know that when I do a sin, forget about that I'm transgressing something that Hashem told me. I'm doing the opposite of Hashem's will. This is basically a sin. That Hashem told me, don't do this, and I do it. Or Hashem told me, do it, and I didn't do it. This is what's called avar al retzon Hashem. I didn't know what Hashem told me. This is the first step of the sin. But regardless to that, I make a blemish. If I now make a sin, I create a spiritual blemish in the world, in the spiritual world. And I have to rectify it. Now if I'm lucky, then I do tshuva, then I stop the leak. You know, I don't know if you noticed, the water, there was, the last week we had a leak outside in the main pipe, and the water was on the street. So I told, we have a nice man in our community here, and I told him, come and help me to fix it. So first of all, what do? Close the water. Close the water from coming out. And he says, I'll come and fix it tomorrow, but first close the water, because all the water is going out. Same thing here, the tshuva, okay, close the water. Stop the flow of your kedusha going into the other side of holiness. Now start fixing the pipe. I didn't break this pipe, by the way. It's going to cost me now a couple $100 shekels to fix this pipe. I can come and say, excuse me, I didn't do the pipe. I didn't do the blemish here. Yeah, but in the meantime, you're going to pay for the water bill, and you're flooding the street. But I didn't break the pipe. Who cares if you broke it or not? It's your pipe. Fix it. So same thing here. I did now a blemish. I can say, but I did tshuva. Well, thank you very much for doing tshuva. But something is broken here. Fix it. So it doesn't mean right now if you did it deliberately or not. That's not the argument right now. Because a lot of the sins that we do, they're by mistake. Or I didn't know. Or whatever it was. Yeah, you can say temporary insanity. I can say that 20 times a day. Yeah, no, I'm just saying you can. But the analogy that I explained in regards to that is, imagine now a little kid, a very cute little kid, 2-year-old, 3-year-old, goes to the kitchen, opens the fridge, looks up at the fridge. Now imagine if it's like a skyscraper for a little kid. For me, the fridge is, first level. But for a little kid, it's like looking at a 6th-floor building. So the little kid is looking all the way up and sees, what they see the chocolate pudding on the top. Kids bring a chair, puts a box, background music of the Mission Impossible, and he's climbing and one leg on this and this. Finally he gets to the top floor of the fridge. You have to imagine this whole scene with the Mission Impossible music in the background. I mean, I have a kid like this. And we come into the kitchen and one leg is here and one leg is like hanging from the top, and he's like, so I have a Mission Impossible one in my home. So the kid goes into the fridge and he pulls out the chocolate pudding, and as he pulls it out, he loses balance, he falls back, and with him everything falls out of the fridge. And all the floor is full of a mess, everything is all over the floor. The mommy comes in and she looks at the mess, and assuming she's a normal mom, or maybe the normal ones will flip out, but assuming that she's not getting upset or losing her temper, because most of the mommies would lose their temper at that moment, or fathers too, not that we're better, but she looks at the mess, she doesn't get upset, she doesn't scream at the child, she chas v'shalom doesn't beat up the child, and she says, honey, it's okay, I understand it was a mistake, but you made the mess, you clean it. That's it. Here's a squidgy, here's the mop, clean it. Fair? I need to clean your mess? You did it. So, okay, well, in the analogy, let's make it a 5-year-old, not a 2-year-old. So the point is that Hashem says, no problem, I forgive you. You did tshuva, thank you, but clean the mess. So, obviously, the Shvatim, they did tshuva, but they probably didn't get to the point of cleaning the mess. That something had to come back, souls had to come back in a reincarnation to pay for that.
How could they clean the mess?
How? Yes. That's a whole different question, but...
Would it be
yes.
Possible?
You can reach a tikkun in this world. That's why we're so lucky that if I did sin in this world, Hashem will give me the opportunity to do a tikkun. This is kind of what the punchline of today's class will actually help us understand why Yosef did that. Specifically with the brothers, why they didn't do the tikkun, I don't know. I can't explain for them why they didn't reach to that tikkun. But most of us are Baal Tshuvas, and even if you were born observant, you're still a Baal Tshuva because you make some boo-boos here and there. And either way you're looking at it, each and every one of us is coming from some type of a background. Doesn't matter if you started Jewish, you converted, it doesn't matter. We're all considered a Baal Tshuva. Because I had some type of a reality in the past and now I changed it. But if you're smart, it's not only closing the water. Okay, now start paying the bill. And that's where you see the kindness of Hashem, that He tells you, I'll give you the opportunity to reach a rectification. And that's what we want to concentrate on. The fact that I did tshuva, I'm very happy. And I feel very lucky that I did tshuva. But now pay the bill, because at some point, the bill is going to have to be paid. Don't think that if you put a yarmulke on your head and a nice beard, that the bill disappeared. So the bill doesn't disappear. It has to be paid. And it's better off paying in this world. So, and there's many different ways. We're not going to talk necessarily how you reach the tikkun, but it's important to know that the tshuva is not, just final, just not to do the sin. There's also a process after that. Nevertheless, we want to understand what did Yosef do here, because that will allow us to understand later what caused him to behave. Now we do know in the Torah a term that is called midah keneged midah, measure for measure. So Yosef did exactly what they did to them, what they did to him. Midah keneged midah. What's the first thing that he did? He called them spies. Why? Because in the beginning when he was a teenager, they called him a spy. He went and told Yaakov, listen, they're hanging out with the girls because they had workers. They had a big business, they had workers. And he thought they're having forbidden relations because they're with the ladies. Really, it was their workers. Then he came and told them, listen, he told Yaakov, they're eating a live animal. He didn't know they actually slaughtered it. So they called him a spy, so he called them a spy. He squared that out. Then the next thing that he does, that he puts them in jail. Now, the jail in the time of Mitzrayim wasn't like today with nice bars and that you can have a degree. The jail was called the pit. And they threw him to the pit, so he threw them into the pit. Midah keneged midah, measure to measure. Then he made it in such of a way that he, so to say, took Binyamin as a slave. Because he said, the one that stole it, he's going to be my slave. That's when Yehuda came and says, take me. I'm stronger, I'm more powerful, I'm much more talented. No, I want him. He said, I got sold as a slave, so I'm going to turn it around. Now Binyamin is going to be my slave. Because Yehuda said, oh my gosh, I have a guarantee here. I gave Yaakov, my father, a guarantee that if I'm not bringing him back, I'm going to be in trouble. I'm going to be lost in this world and lost in the world above. So Yehuda was like, I have to bring him back. So we see that he was literally doing one thing after the other, measure for measure. But the second that he started sensing that they're breaking, that's when he let go. He knew, he didn't have surveillance systems in the jail, but he had Ruach HaKodesh. He knew that while they're in the pit, they were talking to each other and they were saying, the whole thing that we did is haunting us now. And he realized, okay, they're doing tshuva. And he saw that Yehuda is willing to die, and because Yehuda ran to fight for Binyamin, he's like, okay, now he's willing to die or to kill for Binyamin, okay. He saw that they did their tikkun, they did their tshuva. Then he let go. Then he says, okay, stop it, I'm Yosef. Now, the question is, okay, so we figured it out. The question is, you're not allowed to revenge. It's a sin. You're not allowed to revenge or to hold grudge to somebody. But I understand that. But why are you going the extra mile to be good to them? Just say, you know what? We didn't get along. There's not such a good relationship going on here. You go on your way. I'm going to go on my way. That's it. But he goes above and beyond to be nice to them. Feeds them, gives them presents and money, and then brings them down to Mitzrayim and supports them. Can you imagine how much money it is to support such big families? Each one, you're talking about 11 men with their wife and kids. That's a lot of money. I wouldn't mind having a brother like that. So it supports me and my wife, tells me to learn Torah all day long. So I understand Yosef is straight and he says, okay, the Torah doesn't allow me to revenge. I understand. But why are you nice to them? You know, when Avram and Lot didn't get along, what did Avram say? You go here, I go here, and let's stay distant friends. Avram didn't try to go above and beyond to tell Lot, let's work it out. There was an argument. Avram says, no problem. you go there, I'll go here, and we'll meet in the bar mitzvahs. Every 20 years, we'll meet in a bar mitzvah. Hi, how are you? I can't stand you. Let's continue our life. So why didn't Yosef do that? Why did Yosef has to become extra good? Extra and above and beyond. That doesn't make sense. The Zohar explains that specifically that when somebody does something bad to you, that you should go above and beyond to be good to them. Specifically when somebody did something bad to you, not a regular person. Why? And we have to learn that from Yosef. The Zohar says we have to learn from Yosef. When somebody does something bad to me, then I have to be extra good to that person. And I learned it from Yosef. And why? There is a place in the Talmud, in the tractate Sota, that it says that in the same, במידה שאדם מודד, ככה מודדים לו. What I put out, or the word that it's using, in the measure that I will measure, that's the measure that I will be measured. If I measure, let's say, an individual a certain way, that's how they're going to measure me. And basically, in other words, what I put out there is going to reflect directly back at me. If I judge a person favorably, I will be judged favorably. If I will go above and beyond with somebody, it's going to be the same way to me. And you know, we are programmed to some type of a concept that is called a punishment and a reward. Sachar ve'onesh. You do something good, you get a reward. You do something bad, you get a punishment. Even though we tried to explain several times how the Kadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem, doesn't really punish anyone. Hashem is not standing in Shamayim with a stick and waiting for you to do something and starts hitting you. Rather, Hashem says, listen, I created the world with a bunch of rules. Follow the rules, everything will be fine. Break the rules, there's going to be a reaction. There's going to be consequences. I'm not doing it. I'm just telling you, bang your head at the wall. I'm going to guarantee to you, you're going to have a headache. Don't bang the head at the wall. Don't complain. I told you, don't bang your head at the wall. Like you tell your little kid, don't put your hand in fire, you'll get burnt. What, am I punishing the kid? I told you 70 times. You did an action and there's a reaction. But of course, we are programmed under this title that everything that I do, there's either a punishment or a reward. I mean, even in the way how Rambam expresses himself, he says there is a punishment and reward. But it doesn't say that Hashem is punishing me. There is a punishment. Maybe the punishment is coming from my own stupidity. But we are kind of programmed to the concept of a reward and a punishment. But usually the punishment is going to be in the same topic of the action. And you know, a lot of the times things happen to me, and our sages explain, you can look at the action of what happened and backtrack it and to kind of see where Hashem is hinting to you. So if I'm now going to park the car and I go out to the car and I suddenly see a ticket and I don't understand why I got a ticket because I don't even have money to pay for it, I can look back and say, you know what? Maybe I stole something. Maybe I promised somebody money and I didn't help with money and I didn't help. Or maybe I took money without permission. Maybe I owed somebody money and I didn't pay it back. Something, but it should trigger something in my, wait a minute. And you know, maybe I do owe somebody money. I told you many times once, I came home very late my wife tells me, just that you know, we owe the neighbor $40. I was like, why? She said, because the cleaning lady was here, I didn't have cash, and I borrowed it from the neighbor. Just know that we owe her $40. So I pull out $40 and I tell her, go to the neighbor and pay her now. She said, it's 10 o'clock at night, I'll do it in the morning. I told her, no, go pay now. And she was like, why, it can't wait till the morning? I told her, it can wait till the morning. You know why? Because you're going to wake up in the morning, you have 6 kids to take care of, you're going to be rushing outside, and then your whole day's action and rushing, you'll forget. And then one day will pass, and it's $40. It's not the suitcase with $1 million. So you'll forget, and then another day will pass, and another day will pass. You're busy, you have a lot on your mind. She's not going to forget. You will forget. She won't. And then after a few days, she's going to see you on the hallway and be like, hey, she still didn't pay me that $40. Can you believe this chutzpah? And then she's going to go and start telling all the rest of the neighbors, you know that I gave her $40 and she never paid it back. And I told her, before you know it, the whole building is now going to be talking about you. And every time you're going to see her in the hallway, she's going to be looking at you like, and you're like, what's your problem? Yeah, because I gave you $40. It's not the money, it's the fact. And I told her, you think you're going to remember $40? It's not that you lent something big or a big amount of money. $40! That's $40. I remember how many times you said, do you have 20? I'll pay you back. So sometimes Hashem is sending you a hint. Wait a minute, maybe you owe somebody money. Maybe you told somebody, you know what, somebody asked you for money, you say, I don't have right now, come to me next week, I will give you. And next week they come and you're like, no, I don't have money. I didn't say that. So we can see sometimes with the punishment, it's a hint to what I need to reflect on, be like, oh, wait a minute, it's probably that. And not always is so obvious. Now I'm just throwing one example. But we see that sometimes that the hint, the action or the punishment is to hint on what I need to reflect and do tshuva. And we know there's a verse taught by David HaMelech in Tehillim that it says, Hashem tzilcha al yad yaminecha. Hashem tzilcha is your shadow. And Hashem is your shadow. The same way everywhere I will move now, the shadow will move with me. How does the shadow know how to move? So the same way is Hashem. I will now move and Hashem moves with me constantly. The Baal Shem Tov actually explains that Hashem is like your shadow. That you, wherever you will go, the shadow follows you. And you, whatever move you'll do, the shadow will do the same move. Meaning that what I do, I cause some type of an reaction. Whether it's good and whether it's bad. And where do we learn in the Torah how the reaction of something positive comes back? In the Torah we learn in the parasha that is called Beha'alotcha that Miriam and Aaron, they talked Lashon Hara about Moshe. And Miriam she had leprosy. And you know what it says? That everybody waited for her to be cured. Can you imagine? Talking about 3-4 million people. Now don't forget that they had journeys. Everything was calculated. Just imagine the whole system has to wait now for Miriam. Millions of people are sitting. Why are we waiting? Miriam. Why is everybody waiting? Because when she put Moshe Rabbeinu in the basket and she put him in the water, she didn't go right away. She waited. She waited for about an hour to see till the daughter of Pharaoh will take him. For that 1 hour that she waited, years later, millions of people waited a whole week for her. So the Torah comes to tell me, listen, you do one little act, it will come back. This is midah keneged midah. So don't only, people are hooked on just the bad things. Also the good things. You do something good, it will come back to you one way or another, because that's how Hashem operates. You do a certain action, and right away will be a reaction. Not right away, by the way. It can be with a delay. Sometimes you do something now, and 20 years down the line, there'll be the reaction. Both for the positive and the negative. Sometimes something bad can happen. I don't know what it is. Yeah, maybe you did something 20 years ago.
Did they know why she had leprosy? Did they
You mean the nation?
Yeah.
Everybody knew.
So they think, oh yeah, she did that. Oh that, she did that. It's not that. It's a big.
The point I want to take from that is that the punishment, so to say, is to arouse you to do tshuva. If you already want to put it as a category that Hashem punishes, is to arouse you to do tshuva. Hashem doesn't have the agenda to make you leave this world and to revenge or to do something. Hashem says, I will slap you on your hand so you'll wake up and do tshuva. I mean, I don't want to hit my kids, but sometimes they need to get a little slap on their tuchas to wake up. Or you raise your voice for them to, like in the army, how do you scream? Attention? To get their attention. It's not that I want to scream at my child or hit the child. Same thing here. Hashem sometimes slaps us to wake up, do tshuva. You get a hold of yourself. And usually the punishment it will be connected to the actual sin that I can be connecting it and waking up to do tshuva.
What happens if the person feels like they're always constantly getting slapped?
Then that can make it.
What are they doing wrong?
Then first of all, that can be the coming from the person itself. If a person feels that constantly they're getting slapped, could very much be that, first of all, that it's actually really happening, that maybe the person is not getting the point. More than that, that sometimes I think that it's a slap. You know, sometimes when you go to certain doctors, it hurts what they do. You know, remember a few months ago I had a herniated disc. I fell in the stairs, and the chiropractor that came, he hurt me. You know, he was pulling my hand and pulling my leg, and what are you doing? No, I'm fixing you up. No, you're not fixing anything. I'm in pain now. Pulling my leg and pulling my head, and I stop it. So, and he's like, no, I know what I'm doing. I told him, are you sure you know what you're doing? Because it hurts. So, sometimes the healing process also hurts. So you're saying you're getting slaps and slaps. You might, not you, I'm saying the person thinks I'm getting these slaps from Hashem. That's maybe Hashem's chiropractor putting you back into place. It also depends. A person needs to be aware, how is that slap coming from? Maybe it's not a punishment. You know, it can be the process of the healing. And I just accept it. It can be just a test to see if I will get upset. You know, when we were kids and we used to go on a trip, on a class trip, there was always be the one who falls asleep. And then we started painting his face and taking a little, like a straw or something, or a sheaf. How do you say sheaf? The sheaves. But how do you say one? The cane, how do you say the stick of the straw? Stalk. And we would go like this from far away in his ear, and he would. So that's what you do in 4th grade, and you're on a bus in a school trip. So the one who would fall asleep, that's it. He's going to be a target now. Put something in his nose, and so sometimes. Just to see the reaction. Sometimes Hashem, He will blow in your ear to see a reaction, to see if you or if you're getting upset. So it's not always a slap. The person has to have the right perception. What's going on right now? Sometimes a person can just have, I don't know if to call it a problem of self-esteem. Sometimes I think there's a problem. There's no problem here. I see it as something, and I make a whole big deal out of it. And maybe Hashem says, what do you want from me? I didn't do anything. So it can be interpreted in many different ways. Either way you're looking at it, anything that happens to you is happening by Hashgacha Pratit, and Hashem wants you to understand something. And this is exactly what we want to take from that. Because really what is our ultimate request when we go and pray to Hashem? We go to the Yerushalayim, to the Kotel. We go to the Kivrei Tzadikim. I go to the shul. What are my biggest request is that Hashem will forgive me. Forgive me. Especially on Yom Kippur, we scream to Hashem, hey, go easy on me. And I know I wasn't 100%, but just don't be so harsh on me. And this is not only that, this is when I'm coming between me and Hashem. How is about when I get called to court and I'm standing in front of the judge now and I know I was wrong and I admit I was wrong. I was driving 180 miles an hour. And the judge doesn't care if I was in a rush or not. But I pray to the judge, I ask it, please just, have a little bit of rachmanut on me. Really our ultimate request when we're asking for Hashem is to have pity on us. Because at the end of the day, if a person thinks that they're all good, they have a problem. Comes the end of the day, and I look at my day, I can recognize what's good and what's not good. And if I come to the end of the day and I say, today was perfect. No lie came out of my mouth, no lashon hara, no this, no that. Today was a minimum Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. So if you can get to that at the end of the day, that's called denial. And if you come to the end of the day and say, in that situation I was a little bit harsh, and to her I lied, and here's some lashon hara, and here I wasn't so honest. Oh, good. Now you're admitting. Now do tshuva and go to sleep. So when I do tshuva, I tell Hashem, Hashem, that's it. I'm not telling you chas v'shalom, only 3 times a day. Not at all. I'm not telling you have to feel bad, but we do bang on our chest 3 times a day. So Hashem says, the banging of the chest is not about feeling bad. The banging on the chest, we call it confession, vidui. Vidui, Hashem says, I don't need you to feel bad, just confess. Just tell me I did it. So, Baruch Hashem, my kids are kids, and sometimes kids get in trouble. They do things. And one kid will come to me and don't know, and him, and this me, and this one, and come with all these explanations. And I'm like, I was once also 8 years old. I know the excuses. And the other kid just comes on the table. I did it. Why? I don't know. I did it. But it comes right away and tells me I did it. Good. I forgive you. Now let's do this and that and let's move on. And the other one, no, and him and she and then, and don't ask, and come on, just tell me I did it. I'm not going to get upset. What do you think? I'm going to beat you up? Just admit. Learn to admit. That's what I'm teaching him. You think I'm going to take your toy away? Think I'm going to pat you on your tuchis? I want to see you admitting. Be a man and say, I did it. I messed it up. I had a yetzer hara.
It's very therapeutic. It's not really thing because he takes it. Whether he wants or not to say, but he takes it out for himself.
Yeah.
Because he knows he did it.
Yeah.
So he's going to suffer. So if you force him to confess, that is going to be out of his...
100%. So, not too long ago, there was a pudding that everybody gets. It's a Shabbat treat. And I understand. I also have a yetzer hara. He ate one, an extra one. And, the poor person that, that story with that little girl, what's her name, that somebody slept in her bed, the teddy bear, Goldilocks. So the fridge is open and one of the kids is saying, hey, where's my pudding? Who ate the pudding? I did see a cat coming in here before. Really? That's a very talented cat to go like this to the pudding. Who ate the pudding? I don't know. I wasn't here. I was busy the whole day. Don't ask. I was there. It's not me. Don't look at me. So, come on, just admit. So, the point is that's what Hashem is doing to us. He says, what do you think I'm going to punish you? Just admit. Just say, listen, yeah? Forget about the consequences. Hashem wants us to admit. That's why we bang on our heart 3 times a day. It's called vidui. It's to admit. Vidui is lehit vadot, to confess, to come clean. So, forget about right now the consequences. But you did something, they say in America, if you can't do the time, don't do the crime. If you don't know how to at least that's what I'm teaching my kids. Be a man. Just admit. And if you have to be punished for that, then don't. If you're afraid of the punishment, don't do it. Now, of course, I'm not talking about that we have to walk all day long like this, and I'm bad, and that's not the attitude. The attitude is to understand that, I'm human. I have my desires, and I have my faults, and I have my weak moments, and I will fail. That's not that. The point is to be able to admit, to be honest, to know how to come to apologize, to know how to take a step back and let my ego be stepped a little bit. The whole system here of the sinning is just to get the best out of me. And so I'll be able to come clean. It's not easy to confess. It's not easy to, in an argument, to step back and say, you know what, you are right. If everybody would know how to do it, there wouldn't be marital problems. So the problem is that Hashem is orchestrating it in such a way, so I will come to either admit or confess or whatever it is, to lower my ego and to be like, okay, I did a mistake. There's nothing wrong. So what if you did a mistake? Think somebody's standing with a baseball bat to hit you? This is the misconception that we have, that, oh my God, if I will be caught doing a mistake, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Now, Baruch Hashem, we have your minyanim every day. Happens to be that the men are very amazing men, but nobody wants to go to be the chazan. So I'm the chazan every day. Not that I mind, and I always say, if somebody wants to go, you can go. No, you're doing it very well. So Hashgacha Prati, today I was reading, and I got confused with one of the words. I don't know, my mind went somewhere, and I got confused. I wasn't looking at the Siddur, and I got mixed up the words. So I stopped, and I went back, and I reread it out loud, and continued. And in my mind, I was like, I was harsh on myself. Focus! I mean, you can't control your thoughts. I was hard on myself. Why do you get confused now? And you just focus on your prayer. So, just imagine now the scene in my mind. So the cop me is saying, why are you not focusing on your prayer? And the other cop me is saying, hey, relax. He got some slack here. He's doing good. He only did by mistake. So there's an argument in my mind going on. And then I was like, you know what, why I made the mistake? Hashem probably came. You know how you come to little kids and you go like this, and it doesn't sound what they're talking? When I brush my kids' teeth at night, they're not so happy with this whole ceremony. So I have to make it a little bit more interesting. So I always wash their mouth and they're like, So at least it's fun for them. And then they come and they do to me, So I said, you know what? Hashem probably went like this now, so I will be confused. Why? So everybody in the congregation can see, he also gets confused, and he took a step back and said it right and continued. And I was like, Hashem made me like that. So other people will be like, he also makes a mistake, and he's over there. Look at it. Look how long his beard. He must be a tzaddik plus. No, I'm not. I'm a human being, and I make mistakes like you. And here's the proof that you get distracted. I also. And I was like, I saw the beauty how Hashem made it in a way, because of course my ego knocked on the door and says, this is not very embarrassing. You made a mistake. Everybody's looking at you. How can you? And my ego was already relax. I also allowed to make a mistake. Last time I checked, I'm human. So the problem with us is that it's very hard for us to admit that we made a mistake, that I did something wrong, because my ego is telling me three times an hour, you are the best. Nobody is even close to your level. Baruch Hashem, if you have a lot of mirrors in the home, every mirror is like, sometimes you get overwhelmed from the wow. So the ego is constantly going to come and tell me how amazing I am. Now I'm going to come and say, I did a mistake? That's not going to work well with the ego. So Hashem knows how to sometimes, make you kvetch a little bit. It's not that He's slapping you, Stam, or like you said, I have to go in the attitude of no, Hashem says just to it's a reality check. you're still human. We make mistakes. There's a big question once, how come all of our leaders are real human beings? Right. Moshe Rabbeinu is a man. Avraham Avinu. In other faiths, the hero is not really human. He's an angel, or he came from the sky, or whatever it is. He's unhuman. Our leaders are men, are human. To say, you can be a leader, you're still human. And you can still make mistakes. So we see in the history that Avraham Avinu made mistakes. Everybody made mistakes. King David, Moshe, everybody made mistakes. To tell you, if they made a mistake, so much more so me. Now, to kind of wrap it up, because we want to leave some time for the next class, we asking Hashem always to be kind to us. This is called Hagomel Chayavim Tovot. I don't know if you ever heard in a shul that somebody, after they land, or after a sickness, or after going out of a prison or something, they say certain blessing, Hagomel Chayavim Tovot. Gomel Chayavim Tovot is that Chayavim is I owe you, but you're still doing something good to me. And that's what we're asking Hashem. I owe you. I don't really listen to you. I don't really do what you tell me. But be kind with me. Just be a little bit easy here. And the Zohar says a story, that there was once a Tana, and his name was Rabbi Abba. And he was walking in the streets of the city called Lod, and he saw a man leaning on a tree and sleeping. And as he's sleeping, a snake comes down from the tree and is about to bite him. And he's about to scream, and as he's about to scream, a branch falls from the tree and kills the snake. He's like, wow, isn't that luck? And then it doesn't even say Jack Robinson, and he sees another branch falling, is about to fall on the guy's head, and the guy moves, and the branch falls down. He looks at it and says, wow, you have some luck. What are you doing that, you have this protection? So the man answers him, he answered him the same way, Ani gomel chayavim tovot. Somebody does something bad to me, I don't get upset or angry, I do something good to them. So he says, you are better than Yosef HaTzadik. Why? Because Yosef did that to his brothers. You're doing it to strangers. And he told him, you are actually greater than Yosef HaTzadik. So the whole point is why Yosef was doing that, and this is what we want to take from that, is that somebody does something bad to me, it's because Hashem has sent them to do something bad. They're just a messenger. Why are you now punishing the messenger? You're getting upset at the messenger. Now, if you go completely the other way and you turn it upside down and you do something good to that person, then that's how I will be looked at. That's how I'm going to be judged. When I owe something, they're going to show, I'm talking about the heavenly court that judges me. Oh, look, in that situation, how you were judging that person favorably, and you behaved in such a way, we'll do the same thing with you. Midah keneged midah. That's how it works. You do bad, then there will be a bad reaction. You do good, there will be a good reaction. So Yosef went completely out of his way to show us that somebody does something bad to you, it's because Hashem sent that person to you. Not because that person is mean. Because I needed to get my slap on my hand. And that happened to be just the messenger. Don't get upset at the messenger. First of all, this is another way of looking at things. Don't get upset at the messenger. He's just literally the messenger of Hashem coming with a message. But if we're taking it to a next step, be good to that person. Go out of your way to do something good for that person in any type of a way. You already used your creativity. Why? Because there will be a day that I'm going to need this credit in my pocket. And it will be looked upon like, oh, you didn't judge the person, you didn't revenge or did something. You went completely way above and beyond to treat that person nice. We'll do the same thing with you. That's the exact same energy I'm going to bring on myself. And this is what Yosef is coming to teach me. That he understood that he had to go to Mitzrayim to become the king. So later on, he had to save the day. He was the hero. He understood that. He didn't have any anger towards them. He didn't have any sense of have to revenge. But more than that, to even make it even better than it was. He's like, I'm going to be good to them. But they didn't do anything. Just Hashem used them. So the next time when somebody does something bad to me, don't react so fast. Excuse me?
He wanted to be forgiving.
Yeah, of course he wanted to forgive them. The thing is that he didn't even think that it wasn't even an option of forgiving, because he was like, I wasn't angry to start with. And this is a very, very important lesson, because we tend to forget it, very angry very fast, right away. Oh, that person, she did this to me, I'm going to do this to her. And that's just the Yetzer Hara is trying to bring this argument, the fight. Rather, it's in most of the cases, the person that did something wrong to me is just coming to show me, hello, you're doing that. And now it's reflecting on you. I mean, you are projecting it. If somebody comes now and hurts me in some type of a way, the right way of actually saying, wait a minute, if I see it, it means that I see what I'm projecting. It means that I did it to somebody in one way or another, and Hashem is turning the mirror towards me, so I can say, wait a minute, why am I getting upset at that person? That person is coming to tell me that I am doing that. And by me going above and beyond, then I rectify what I do wrong. And the reality is that we're not 100%. I'm not going in the street all day long like pounding on, oh, I'm so bad. Because I say, okay, listen, that's how Hashem made me. And but I try to learn from everything that happens. So we want to take from that a very important lesson, that it's all about letting go and forgiving. And the more that I'm in the motion of giving, that I'm making space to be the receiver. The more that I'm holding back and refraining, and I'm holding the judgment, the grudge, the anger, that I'm blocking anything from coming into my direction. So we definitely need to learn from Yosef HaTzadik, and especially from the story that is mentioned in the Zohar. Even Yosef did it to his brothers. First, the point is to do it to people that are strangers, because at the end of the day, it doesn't do any good for me when I revenge or when I hold grudge. It just hurts me. But when I completely go out of my way to do something good, then I square things out and I rectify it. B'ezrat Hashem, if we learn to do that, for sure our life is going to be a little bit more smoother. Needless to say that our main goal is to bring the redemption, to bring the world to a much better place. The only way of doing it is when we create unity. If my agenda is to create a separation, it doesn't matter what I'm going to do. I'm pushing the Geulah, because the Yetzer Hara is going to come to do whatever it can. The agenda of the Yetzer Hara is not for you to desecrate Shabbat or to eat pork. It's not in his agenda. His agenda is to create separations. And that's what the Yetzer Hara wants. He's called a mecharcher riv. He wants to make an argument. That's where he gets his pleasure. And when the Yetzer Hara comes between two people to make an argument, then the reaction is that there's going to be a separation. When we know how to bridge from the separation, then we overpower the Yetzer Hara. Needless to say that that's how we actually bring the ability for the redemption to happen. As long as we're separated, we're going to have a problem. So this is why Yosef was like, listen, Yosef, we have 4 Mashiachim. We have Mashiach ben David, of course, that is going to come very soon. We have Mashiach ben Yosef, that according to most of the information that we have, he already did his job and left. And we have another Mashiach ben Menashe and Mashiach ben Ephraim, but they're completely out of the equation right now. We're focusing on Mashiach ben David. But the first Mashiach that came was Mashiach ben Yosef. And Yosef said, I know there's going to be a Geulah here. And next week, when Yehuda and Yosef are confronting each other, is because these are the two kings that comes. Mashiach ben David comes from Yehuda, and Mashiach ben Yosef comes from Yosef. Later on, they also split in Mamlechet Yehuda. But Yosef knew the only way to bring the redemption. He not only was looking at the Egypt redemption, he was looking down the line. It's only if we keep the unity. He knew that the whole story to go to the Mitzrayim is to be going out of Mitzrayim. What good would he do if we split now? On the contrary, he did it how they say in America. I heard this term not too long ago, take one for the team. So Yosef was like, okay, I'm taking one for the team, because I'm looking at the general thing here. I'm looking at the redemption. And if I'm going to cause unity, we're going to go out of Mitzrayim. If I'm going to cause separation, we'll stay in Mitzrayim. So what good would my ego will do to me? So that's what we want to take from us, especially that we're so close to the coming of Mashiach. We all battle in one way or another some type of a confrontation or disagreement that it's obvious that the Yetzer Hara is trying to make a split. And if I feed it, then I'm adding to the split. You know, sometimes a fabric can be ripped and it can stay like that. But once it's ripped, all you need to do is like that and it rips completely. It's the first rip that is hard to get. Once it's ripped, then excuse me?
Stitching time saves money.
Yeah, exactly. So B'ezrat Hashem, we should really focus on unity and achdut and forgiving and accepting and understand that when something negative happens to me, it's happening because that's what was intended to happen, and I'm just have to follow the steps. And when I do it in a positive way and not feeding the negative into it, then I'm actually fulfilling what I'm supposed to do, and it will straighten out by itself. B'ezrat Hashem, we should really, really reach to that level that we know how to, in every disagreement or confrontation or anything in that matter, know how to be the more mature one, to be more the adult here. Like I told you so many times, my father gave me the best advice when I was a kid. In this world, don't be right, be smart. If you're going to fight to be right, that's not going to give you a lot of nachat. Make sure that you're smart. And sometimes you need to know when to close your mouth. Sometimes you need to know when to move. Sometimes you need to know when to react the right way. Don't look to be right. And you know, he told me that when I was maybe 14 or 15, and it's stuck in my head up until today, and it's such smart advice, because in life, I always try, but it's his fault. Who cares right now who's right here? It's not going to do anything good. So be smart instead of being right. B'ezrat Hashem, should be right always, should be smart always, and B'ezrat Hashem, with our efforts, be right in being smart. Should be smart, and the smart thing to do is to create unity in our nation and between nations. That's what's going to hasten the redemption. And at the end of the day, we'll see how it's just the Yetzer Hara coming in between to making all these disagreements, and by falling into chas v'shalom, into revenge, would make it worse. And by being mature here and using your common sense, actually takes you to a much, much better place. B'ezrat Hashem, should have a beautiful rest of the week, and Chag Chanukah Sameach.